Today is Thursday, March 12th, 2020, and the location of the interview is at the Red Cross chapter in Kennewick, Washington. I am interviewing Steve Epperson. He is a veteran and was born April the 10th, 1948. Dixie Ferguson and Vic Phillips, the videographer, are conducting the interview today. We represent the Blue Mountain chapter of the American Red Cross in Walla Walla, Washington. So, Steve, you had already told me that you were in the Army, U.S. Special Forces, and you served from 1967 to 1972, and then you came back into the reserves from 1973 to 2001 and came out as a lieutenant colonel. So, were you drafted? Or
No, I enlisted. But there's one correction on that.
Sure.
And when I came home from Vietnam in 70, I went into the reserves up at Spokane and stayed in that until 72 when I went into ROTC. And at that time, we could not serve concurrently in ROTC and the reserve, so I had to get discharged. Then I was commissioned in 73 and went on active duty, and then left active duty and went into the reserves.
Oh, gotcha. Later on.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Alrighty. And so you enlisted.
I did.
And why?
Because I wanted to go to Vietnam.
You did?
Yeah.
Why?
I think every young man in their formative years had a desire to crawl through the mud and shoot people, and then until you find out they can shoot back. But I just always wanted to serve, and I wanted to go to the war. It was raging when I was in high school. We studied it quite a bit in school, and then I read the book The Green Berets by Robin Moore and could visualize a lot.
Did you see the movie?
I did. I did it while I was in Special Forces training at Fort Bragg.
Did you laugh?
At some parts, yeah. But the book inspired me to give it a shot. So I graduated from high school in '66.
Where were you?
I grew up in Benton City, and all 12 years there at school. And I wanted to enlist right then, but the war was getting pretty hot then, and I was the baby, and my mother just threw a fit. So I went to CBC for a year, and then...
Oh, what did you do?
I went to CBC, Columbia Basin College, for a year.
Yes,
And then I told my mom I'd give it a shot, and I'm just not ready for it, so I want to go try that. So I enlisted and did a series of volunteers to try to get into Special Forces training. I just happened to make it.
And when you first enlisted, you were, what, about 18?
Actually, I was 19, and then I started, after basic training, I went to Fort Lee, Virginia for a couple months, a little short school, and then volunteered for paratrooper training, Airborne, down at Fort Benning. While down there, I had an opportunity to take the Special Forces battery and accession test and their shrink test. Got through that.
You obviously did well. Obviously.
I got through them. And anyway, I got selected and got orders to report to Fort Bragg. So.
Okay, we're going to back up just a little bit. So when you first joined, you were in Benton City, and where did you start your basic training then?
Fort Lewis.
And Fort Lewis. How long were you there?
I was there from 28 August till about early November 3rd or 4th, 5th, somewhere in that.
So far, so good being at Fort Lewis?
No, it rained a lot over there. It was miserable out there. But I was happy to get that over with, yeah. While I was in there, there was meningitis going around at that time. So they had a lot of restrictions on any visits. We got no passes while I was there. And I only remember getting to go to the PX about twice while we were there to, get some shaving gear or things like that. So I was happy to go.
Restricted. How many months there?
From the end of August till early November.
And what was, if there was a daily routine, what was that like?
Screaming DI waking you up, kicking garbage can down. Get up, physical training, and then basic soldier tasks on that. It was oriented toward Vietnam.
It was?
Yes.
Yeah. Could you give an example, meaning orienting toward Vietnam? What does that mean?
One thing that I recall that sticks in my mind is night walking and trying to find tripwires. They teach you how to night walk and very cautiously and to feel with your feet and hands. That sticks out in my mind. And of course, crawling under the machine guns at night through the mud with the tracers going over your head sticks out in the mind. The gas house training there, that sticks out in my mind.
Did you have Vietnam drill instructors? I mean, did they already return from Vietnam training you?
Not all of them, but several of the senior DIs were Vietnam vets. Yeah.
Would they tell their stories?
Not a great deal. They were pretty much hands off of us. I mean, it was a busy day. You know, they had a training schedule they had to follow there. Mm-hmm. And so by the time we finished up our training, cleaned our weapons and our gear, polished our boots, got ready for the next day, it was just about lights out.
By the time you got through the basic training, were you feeling a new band of brothers, discipline?
Yeah, I made a lot of friends that I'm still in contact with a few of them. I was fortunate in that when I enlisted, a friend of mine from Benton City enlisted with me, so we went to basic together. Then we went our separate ways after basic. He went into...
Did that help you?
It was nice to have a guy to chat with there, you know, but like I said, I made a lot of other friends while in basic there. I mean, the idea was to help each other out and get through.
Lots of diversity.
There was.
You did. So you still had your focus at that time for Special Forces? That was your goal?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you went from Fort Lewis to Fort Bragg.
I went to Fort Lee, Virginia.
I'm sorry, you told me that.
Yeah.
Why there?
Because I pulled a coup off on the Army. I wanted to try to get to Special Forces training as soon as possible. So I asked my recruiter, what's the shortest school I could go to after basic training to get on down to Fort Benning and then see if I can get into SF. He says, I can send you to a short supply school. I said, hurt me. So he did, and that was kind of a gentleman's course after basic training. And I was back at Fort Lee, Virginia from November till, golly, I was trying to think. I guess I did spend Christmas there. I was there till early January, and then I transferred down to Fort Benning for the Airborne School.
By the way, how long were you there in Fort Benning?
Not very long.
What months were you there?
January and February. I was there probably about 4 weeks. The school is 3 weeks long, so if you give me a day or two to end process and then go through training and get out. And
no humidity?
Terrible.
It was humidity?
Yeah, cold, biting cold, that humid down there. Obviously not as bad as the summer, but it was cool.
So a couple of months there?
Probably just about a month overall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Then I took my first leave after Airborne School and came home, and then from there reported into Fort Bragg in late February.
How many did you did some jumps at Fort Benning? About
5.
Did you like it?
I became a pilot for a reason, because I wanted one landing for every takeoff. but it was fun in its own way. The first one, I think everybody's terrorized. You know, they call it a night jump because your eyes are closed and you go out the door. But we flew, when I went through jump school, it was in old C-119s. They were very old aircraft. You were wondering if they were going to get off the ground. But everything happens real quick once you get up in the plane there. Once the jump master says stand up, there's about 10 commands they go through to prep you to get ready to go. God, I just couldn't believe how quick it went. And then when they say go, I thought it'd be walk up to the door and go, no, it's haul ass up to the door and dive out, you know.
No time to think.
No, but I recall when my chute opened, just how quiet it was, you know, and a lot of the guys coming down beside me were yelling, you know, excited about it, and then you realize the ground's starting to come up pretty fast, and so.
Bob, do you even remember how high you were?
1,250 feet above the ground.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just enough.
That was pretty much a standard jump height at that time.
Before you left there, were there a number that you had to jump before?
You had to have 5 to get your wings. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
You got those proud wings then?
Yeah.
And then you went, now you're at Fort Bragg.
I went on leave for 2 weeks and then went from home to Fort Bragg.
Were you excited about getting to Fort Bragg?
Yes. I wanted to give it a try. A little trepidation, you know. I knew it was not going to be an easy task, and it wasn't.
Good. We'll get into that. So, how many months were you going to be at Fort Bragg?
I ended up being there a total of from late February of '68 till April of '69.
Okay. And what were they going to train you to do?
Well, the Special Forces training at that time is broken down into 3 phases. The first one was called Method of Instruction, and that's the Special Forces guys. Their mission is to go in and help Indigenous forces, train them to overcome whatever adversary they're suffering from. So they teach you how to be an instructor there. And most of the classes, not all of it, but a lot of it was out in the woods making makeshift blackboards out of a poncho, or making models of something that you wanted to demonstrate how to train on, and so on. So that was about a month long. It was called Phase 1. There was also in Phase 1 they took us out for training out to a place called Mont Lake. That's out where they, I don't know if you've heard of the Delta team.
Sure.
That's where they're based now.
M-O-T-T Lake?
Yeah.
Mont Lake.
Yeah.
Sure.
It was very archaic back then. We slept out in little shelters, tent shelters, if you will, or on the ground with a poncho over you. And out there they taught us some survival skills, and we got into land navigation, and then
what is land navigation?
the compass,
Sure.
day and night compass courses.
Sure.
It's not that easy, particularly in that terrain. There's a lot of swamp out there. We were out there, I don't know, a week or 10 days, I guess. And the last part of it's an exfiltration at night. And you go through a swamp. And at that time, we didn't have jungle fatigues or jungle boots, so we just wear leather boots. And they don't do well in the swamp. And it was timed. We had to find X amount of compass points that were a stake that they had driven 2,000 yards, 2,000 meters away, or whatever, on such and such an azimuth. You had to be able to find that at night.
How many were there of you?
In my class, I think when we finally graduated, I had a little over 100 in my class.
Okay.
We dropped out a lot.
Washout.
Yeah.
So were there that many of you out there on these exercises?
No, I don't, you know, Dixie, I don't recall how many there. I don't remember being around that many right there, but they could have broken us up into groups too. On that, we were supposed to parachute in that night when we went out there, but I'll never forget this. We were up in the airplane, and the jump master, his name was Ranger Melvin, and he was a character. But I'll never forget when he opened the door up. We were in a C-123, and he was standing looking out, and I was close to the door. I wasn't the first man in the door, but I was 2 or 3 back, and I could see lightning flashes out there, you know. Oh God! And we were getting rocking and rolling in the airplane. Finally, old Ranger Melvin, he turned around to us. He says, "Unhook." We had our static lines hooked up to a cable that opens your rag up when you jump out. He said, "Unhook and set down." And I'll never forget when he said, "When Ranger Melvin's afraid, you be afraid." We went back and landed back at Pope Air Force Base, and they trucked us out there.
Yes, sir.
So.
That's funny. So you trucked in then?
Yeah, and then did that. that training out there, and then we exfiltrated on that night course, and oh, my feet were a mess. I've got toes that kind of curl under like this, and they blister real easy when we're doing a lot of walking and in water. And like I said, no jungle boots, so I paid the price for that. But we had to be in by a certain time the next morning, and I don't recall what the time was, but you didn't have time to mess around. And we made it. We made the cut.
Why this specific pressure? Just discipline and...
See if you can work under pressure, yeah. Yeah, and if you can navigate, yeah.
Obviously very critical.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yes. I just can't imagine today with the GPS that they have and so on. But I don't know. I don't think they let them use that in Phase 1 either. It's always good to have an old compass that you can read and map. You know.
You did all the classroom training before.
A lot of it before, yes.
And obviously this is hands-on.
Yeah, and some survival training out there. Like they gave us a goat and a couple chickens. We killed the goat and the chickens, smoked the goat. Oh, just delicious.
Good barbecue, huh?
Yeah. And then when you get to the finish point, there was a truck there, and they trucked us back into Fort Bragg, right to the arms room to start cleaning the arms room. I spent probably 6 hours cleaning my weapon before they would accept it. God, I could not believe it. You could have ate off of it, you know.
I don't know. Did you just do that one time, or was that regular? Going out like that?
Just that one time for that particular phase. After that, we had probably a week or two downtime in between classes, and I was designated a weapons specialist, and so I was waiting for the next weapons class to start. And they used to have what they called the pine cone detail there, where
pine cone?
Yeah. Okay. The pine cone detail. If you weren't in class, you had to fall out for the formation. Then the TAC sergeant would come around and say, "All right, we got to go sweep the grounds for pine cones and stuff." Guys would just disappear. They called it ghosting. You might have 30 guys out there. When they came back, you'd have 5. You know, I'll never forget. I don't know. I probably better not use colorful language here, but I'll never forget some from the stuff that he had, that he would yell at us out there. And it was kind of a game, the ghosting game. And they knew what...
Are you saying ghosting?
Yes.
Ghosting,
Yeah, because they couldn't find us. And we go hide out in the forest, you know, and stuff, survival skills. Honing them.
Back on the playground. Huh?
Honing them, yeah. Yeah, it was fun. But our tactical sergeants there at the company, we had a couple of great ones there. A couple of them legends.
Were they?
Yeah.
In what respect?
Heroics, Distinguished Service Cross. Our first sergeant was the guy, when JFK came to Fort Bragg and asked him how he'd kill a snake, he said like this and bit the head off of it. Jerry Olson, Master Sergeant Jerry.
Never forget him, huh?
Yeah. So, but they were good guys, and the officers were good too. They pretty well left us alone when we were in training on that. But.
And so you said there were 3 phases then?
Yes.
Of this? And you became a weapons specialist, so what did that mean?
Well, I was trained in many small arms on that in the first phase of it. The second phase went into heavy weapons like mortars and recoilless rifles. And I wish we would have got into 105 howitzers, because I had 2 when I got to Vietnam I didn't know anything about, you know. But yeah, it was a lot of that was classroom instructions with some field time going out and firing the weapons and learning how to emplace them and so on.
Did you like that part?
Yeah, I did. I grew up hunting, you know, and shooting a lot.
Sure.
But I did, yeah. It was challenging. I mean, it wasn't a gimme.
So what would you say every day was pretty stressful and just a lot of stress?
Not just academic stress, trying to remember. We went through a lot of stuff, you know, trying to remember, you know, velocities and bursting radiuses and call for fire formulas and so on. It was a hatful for me, you know.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Were there a lot of testing, lots of quizzes?
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of hands-on testing. Okay, here's a weapon of some particular kind. You have X amount of time to disassemble it, reassemble, and prove to me that it functions. So there was that.
That'd be cool. You had to be cool under pressure.
Yeah.
To do that. But there was a big washout, is what you're saying, too.
There was quite a few, yes.
Sure, understood. And that's what they probably wanted to do.
Yeah, they were looking to weed you out.
Yeah. So you went through the stage 3 then.
Phase 3 came up after the weapons training, and what that was called was Tactics and Techniques of Special Forces, Special Operations. That was a lot of classroom in there, and it's actually very interesting. We taught foreign internal defense, unconventional warfare, and most of all those NCOs were Vietnam vets.
All of them were.
Yeah, that went through that. That was interesting. That culminated with a big field exercise, about a 2-weeker, if I remember correctly, where we would go out there and employ these tactics and techniques that we used. One event that sticks out in my mind there was a lieutenant in our group. They put some officers in with us that were going through officer training, which was much easier than what we went through. And we had one lieutenant out there that was just giving us grief. And we found a little country store out where we were at. I went in there and I said, I'm going to get this SOB. I bought some Phenament. You know what that is?
Phenament, oh yes.
Phenament?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Did it work?
We went out, we were laying in an ambush position out there, and the lieutenant was right beside me. He said, hey, sir, you want some chiclets? And chiclets came in C rations back then, a little package of a couple of them. He said, yeah, here you go. So I gave them to him, he chomped them down. Well, later that night, when he crawled in his sleeping bag, we could hear him snoring, or we tied it shut. The next morning he got up, he said, God, he says, I don't know why it hit me. He says, I really had to go to the bathroom. I couldn't get out of my bag. Oh, really? I'll be darned.
Never knew, right?
Well, he found out later in Vietnam. I ran into him over there, and I told him, he said, I'm going to get you.
You're always looking over your shoulder.
Yeah.
So that was 2 weeks out there then. Any communication from home at all?
Oh, yeah. My mom was really good about writing, and had a lady friend that I communicated with. Some
brothers, sisters back home?
Have one brother.
Younger?
No, he's 6 years older.
Okay.
He worked his whole career out at Hanford here. He's graduated from Wazoo in engineering and worked out here the whole time.
Guy.
Yeah.
Great family.
Yeah.
But he wasn't interested in the military?
No, when he went to Wazoo, ROTC was mandatory for 1 or 2 years. I can't remember which, and he chose Air Force. And he wasn't particularly interested in the military at that time. But he ended up getting married just before he graduated, and I think they were breathing on him for the draft. And he went down and took the Navy test for flight school. Then they went over to I believe the lottery, and he was free. Actually, he got a national defense firmament out here because he was working some nuke stuff out here.
Sure.
So he got out of it. But to this day, he regrets not having served. He's a real pro-military hockey type of guy.
Does he like talking to you a lot?
Yeah. Yeah, or my friends,
Sure.
And the last Special Forces convention they had out in Las Vegas, my brother lives in Las Vegas. I took him to that, and I think there's a few Medal of Honor recipients there, and he
loved that.
Yeah, he thought that was a cat's ass.
Yeah, for sure. Well, okay, so you're through the phase 3.
Yeah, graduated in September of '68, and I was assigned to B Company of the 7th Special Forces Group at Fort Bragg. So it was just a short move for us. Went over to B Company there, and did a lot of field training and some parachuting over there, and some special projects for the Sergeant Major, who was an SF legend. And finally I told the Sergeant Major, I said, Sergeant Major, this is not what I came in for. I said, I want to go to Vietnam. And there was a lady at the Pentagon named Billy Alexander that handled all the Special Forces assignments at that time. And I said, I'd like a pass to go up and see her. He said, you got it. Me and another buddy that I went through training with. And so we went up there, got up to the Pentagon, and I don't know if you've ever been there.
I have, just 2 weeks ago.
It's kind of overwhelming. When you first walk in, you've never been there. We're trying to find Mrs. A's office. We're thrashing around there, stumbling around there. Who comes walking down the hall with a cup of coffee in his hand? But General Westmoreland. He walks up to us. I was a buck sergeant, and my friend was, he was either a buck sergeant or a Spec 4, and he said, what you boys doing? I said, sir, we come up to volunteer to go to Vietnam. I said, well.
Had he been?
Oh yeah, he was the commander in Vietnam for a number of years, and then he became Army Chief of Staff, I believe. Mm-hmm. So a lot of stars there for him, you know. So he said, well, fellas, good luck to you, you know, and thought that was interesting. But we went in and saw Mrs. Alexander, and she said, when do you want to go? And I said, how about May? And she said, you got her. You'll be getting the orders. So
this is two of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my friend was from Pittsburgh, and we went through all the training together and ended up bunking in the same room at in the 7th group there. And so we got up there and we got our orders, and he went to Pittsburgh and I went home. Then he came out, flew out to the Tri-Cities here and picked him up, and spent a few days at our house over there. And then my parents drove us over to Fort Lewis to catch our flight to Vietnam.
What were your parents thinking taking you to Fort Lewis?
You know, I didn't have an appreciation of that until my son went to Afghanistan. And now I know, but I know my mom was pretty concerned, you know, on that.
Of course.
In '69, there was some hot stuff going on over there.
You bet. So, well, you got your wish. So off you go. And so what was the flight like going over?
Terrible. Flew out of McChord Air Force Base on a Braniff DC-8, bright yellow, just a tube of about probably 220 or 30 of us in there. And I had a pair of ill-fitting boots. One of my boots, it just rubbed right on the top of my foot. It hurt so bad. By the time I got to Vietnam,
it's a long flight.
It is. And I think we stopped in Japan and took on some fuel, and then we arrived in Cam Ranh Bay late at night. And I'll never forget that when we stepped off the plane, the heat. You know, when they got onto buses to take us over to in process.
And that was what month?
May of '69. So we got over there in process at Cam Ranh Bay, and they shanghaied a bunch of SF guys to other units, to the 1st Cav and 173rd over there. They were not happy, but my friend and I met up with the Special Forces liaison guy, and it got us up to Nha Trang. That's where our headquarters were.
Yeah. So they weren't part of Special Forces anymore?
No, they got shanghaied into the other units there, needs of the Army. So we got out to Nha Trang, and they issued a weapon out there, and fill out a little dream sheet. Where do you want to go in country? I don't know what the hell I was thinking, both of us, but we both put down 4th Corps down to the Delta. And by the luck of God, the grace of God, we ended up getting 2 Corps into the Highlands there. And I don't know what I was thinking, because that's what the whole book, The Green Beret, was about, was living with the Montagnards. So there at Nha Trang, after in processing, we had to go through what they called the combat orientation course out on Han Tre Island. It was an island out off the coast of Nha Trang there. In fact, it's where Senator Bob Kerrey got his Medal of Honor action out there. We were out there for a week going through combat action drills and calling in artillery. Got to watch the battleship New Jersey fire from out there. That was interesting.
Okay. The name of the island again?
Han Tre, Hontre.
Got it.
2 words. Yeah. So we were out there for a week, and then we came in, and they assigned us up to Pleiku. That's where our C team was. Special Forces, you have A, B, C teams, and then the Special Operations Headquarters. And the C team has 10 B teams underneath it, and the B team has like 10 A teams underneath it. So we got assigned up to C2 there in Pleiku, and we weren't there too long. If if I recall correctly, just like a night or two. And one of the camps was under siege called Benton at that time. It was a pretty rough go up there. And I'll never forget them getting us up at night to fill water bags for them to take out to them. And I thought I was going to get assigned out there, but I didn't. And
because you were pretty close to the border, weren't you?
Pleiku, it was kind of about dead center, but Benton was closer to the border. So after about 2 days there, they sent us down to Tuet. That's where our B team was down there. Very interesting time down there. We weren't there long either, but the sergeant major down there was named Gomez, and he was a very friendly sergeant major. I mean, there wasn't any harassment or anything like that. That crap was over. And
was that because it's Vietnam?
Yeah, there. And they knew the rubbers were going where the rubber's going to meet the road. But Sergeant Major Gomez was in on the killing of Che Guevara.
Really?
And very interesting to talk with on that.
Wow.
So every time I see one of these asswipes wearing a Che t-shirt out there, if they only knew what he did,
That's right.
he was not a nice guy. But anyway, I got my assignment out to A-231, Tieu-Atar, it was called. It's a border camp. And my friend...
And just for the record, I spell that camp.
Tieu, second word A-T-A-R.
A-T-A-R.
Tieu-Atar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And my buddy got sent to the next camp south of me called Benton, or Trang Phuc. They had two different names. But, so we didn't see each other, we were pretty busy. I got out there, and normally an A-team, Special Forces A-team, has 2 medics, 2 engineers, 2 communication guys, an operations and intelligence sergeant, 2 engineers, and a commander and an executive officer, and maybe a civil action officer. We were very short. I think the most Americans we ever had there was 8 or 9 at one time. So I didn't get any overlap with the weapons guy that was there, who was a senior NCO. And here I am with that bad foot where the boot rubbed it in. I mean, I couldn't even wear a boot. I finally got a new pair, but I had that hole in the top of my foot there. And
you could get infected very easily.
Pretty easy over there. I remember arriving at the camp over there. Of course, they helicoptered us out there, and the Jeep came down the airfield to pick me and my duffel bag up. We were driving back up. There was a Montagnard walking out through some type of crop they were raising. I don't remember what it was, but I thought he had a coil of rope in his hand. He was walking along. He had a big dead snake he was carrying for dinner later. And he was in a loincloth. Big clay
Yes,
pipe.
Classic.
Yeah.
Beetle nut.
Oh, yeah. The women, too, And traditionally around our camp there, a lot of the women just wear a sarong and went bare-breasted, but a lot of the younger women wore a blouse. They were a little more modest and so on. And a lot of the older Montagnard men wore just a loincloth.
And you couldn't tell their age.
No, I couldn't tell on their age.
And what was your relationship with the Montagnards?
It was very good. Yeah. We treated them good. They treated us right. They were very protective of us when we were out on operations.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why is that about the Montagnards?
Because they were hated by the Vietnamese. I'm sure you must have saw some yards when you were over there, didn't you? You saw they looked different. To me, they look more like a Native American or perhaps a Mexican, dark skinned, short and stocky, where the Vietnamese a lot of them are very slender and look fragile.
Correct.
Yeah. Fair skinned. But
they were friends to the Americans.
For the most part. There were some bad ones.
And so what was yours? What were some of the things you were doing?
Well, when I first got there, the first thing I had to do, gimping around, I wanted to find out where the weapons were they working, the fields of fire, find out escape and evasion if we had to do that, which way do we go? That's very important.
Absolutely.
And so I was busy doing that and bonding with the other team members there. And I did that. I got tasked right after I got there from headquarters to go out and draw a schematic of all the fields of fire of our weapons out there. That's not an easy task, going out with a compass and figuring out the ranges and so on. So that took me probably a week to do that. Meantime, my foot started healing up. And one thing that we were very fortunate at where that camp was at is we weren't in thick jungle. A lot of the surrounding area was single canopy. And a lot of it was deciduous trees. And in the fall, the leaves would fall, so it would open it up a lot there. We had one NVA battalion try to come through there and annihilated them.
Wait a minute. You explain that.
Well, a battalion, we were so close to the border, it was an infiltration route there.
Would that be the Ho Chi Minh Trail?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, a branch of it peeled off there. We were fortunate in that they pretty well left us alone because that was so open there. We could call in air and get them. Well, they tried. They brought down a rookie battalion there. This was just before I got there. I mean, just before I got there. And our CIDG, that's what we called the Montagnard Civilian Irregular Defense Group. They had a turkey shoot out there. They didn't lose anybody killed. Yeah.
When you're saying, did you say a battalion?
Yes.
So you're talking 200-300?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
wiped out?
Pretty much, the ones that didn't make an escape, yeah. I don't think they took a prisoner, I don't think.
I mean, this is a hard question, but are they just left lying there? Or did they take their own away, or how does that work?
They took a lot of their own away or buried them.
They did have that much respect for them, or it was just a humiliation thing?
No, I think probably respect. I mean, they had buddies too, out there. But when you're getting your ass shot off, you can't always do that,
And you don't think about that, do you, with the enemy?
No.
That they have those kinds of feelings.
You try not to think that they have any feelings.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Okay, so you were kind of in an open area then?
Yeah, it wasn't completely open. I mean, we were very active operationally. We kept a lot of patrols out. I was out a lot,
You were out a lot.
Out in the field a lot. I was one of the few guys they would let go out because we only had one medic usually. Occasionally we had two communication guys, and the radio has to be manned 24/7,
Right.
And one engineer and sometimes no engineers. So I was one of the few guys that I had the weapons working well, and I had a couple Montagnards that were good at weapons maintenance. So I was out quite a bit.
Now wait a minute, by yourself?
No, I would go. I only went out on one patrol by myself, one as an American with the Montagnards. Usually we had two on that. My first operation, I went out probably in June. I went out with my commander. He was getting short.
Okay, that's not good either.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you go out, you're doing different things?
Well, we're
Scoping?
yeah, we're patrolling, if you will. Yeah, we're looking to see are there any hot trails that are coming down in there, any signs of enemy activity where they've remained overnight, are they infiltrating through our area?
Okay, so how long would you be out?
Normally a week.
A few of you out for a week.
Yeah.
I would be crying for my mother. Well, anyway, so how did you live out there?
Well, of course we carried our own food with us. I carried what we called LERP rations, and they were dehydrated. And I happen to like those. Occasionally I'd carry a few C's, but they were too heavy. I traveled very light. I'd carry a poncho and a poncho liner sewn into a hammock. Several changes of socks. I didn't wear any underwear.
Walking.
Yeah.
Walking all the time.
Yeah. Well, occasionally we'd have an airborne insertion, helicopter insertion, but it was not normal for us out there. But yeah, we would walk and set up at night out there, and first thing you want to do is get security out. Make sure nobody can ambush you while you're getting set up for night. And you usually have something to eat. I'd cook a canteen cup of water with a piece of C4 plastic explosive. Pinch a little bit off and light it on fire, then boil a cup of water.
You knew how to do these things.
Yeah. And the Montagnards, if there was any bamboo around, they'd cut up some bamboo that we could put in it, fresh bamboo or some other plant life. I never did ask what it was. But and also,
were you feeling good?
Yeah, when the mosquitoes weren't tapping me dry. The plant life, they also like to eat ants out there. And during the rainy season out there, my first patrol out, first operation out, it wasn't during the rainy season. But occasionally you come into puddles of water and there'd be these green metallic beetles in it about that long. And the yards just loved those. And they got me one, and they throw it on fire till it pops, and then, you know.
But was there any taste to it?
It wasn't real good, no. So I ate one, and they called them blings. That was their yard for. So after that, I was known as Bling.
But you always trusted them.
Yeah, I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, we had a couple around that we were suspicious of, and interrogated them, and they went away.
And how about the language barrier?
There was. They could speak Vietnamese. Many of them could. Many of them could not. Some of them could speak French because they'd been around when the French were over there. I took French in high school, and I could still remember a little bit back then and try to get a point across to them there. But we had Montagnard interpreters with us there.
How did they know English?
They just were smart guys. They picked it up, and they would
amazing.
Interpret for us. And they usually could speak Vietnamese too. You know, we had Vietnamese special forces out where we were at, but they were worthless as tits on a nun.
Yeah.
You know, we couldn't hardly get them out of their team house over there.
Military. Yeah. I remember those little jeeps. You guys had little jeeps.
We had one out of our camp.
Yeah.
And we'd use that to run down to the airfield. The airfield was several hundred meters away. We'd go down there to pick up people coming in or some mail or something like that, you know.
What did you wear on the field? Because you didn't wear your green beret.
I wore tiger fatigues.
Okay.
And no socks, no.
No
I did wear some socks. Yes, I did, until my feet got toughened up. Then I quit wearing them. And
Wow.
no underwear.
Did you lose weight?
I didn't look like this.
But
Yeah,
I mean, everybody was skinny.
I was pretty buff back in the
You
day.
had to be.
Yeah.
I mean, because did you really eat enough calories every day?
Yeah, I guess I probably did. When I came out of high school, I weighed about 165, and I probably weighed at my low point around 150 or so, like that. I stayed fairly.
But you were getting enough nutrition.
Yeah, and also we would occasionally, when a helicopter would come in, if they had a little extra fuel, we'd have them take us out deer or hog hunting, wild boar. We'd shoot those and deer and bring them back.
Was that tasty?
The deer were good. That boar was all right. Yeah.
I didn't know they had deer over there.
Yeah, and boar, and there's a partridge and wild peacocks. But
Peacocks.
yeah, you know, of course, the Asian culture, it doesn't matter where you're at, they're big fish eaters. And I'll tell you what, I'm not. If it tastes like fish, I don't like it. I can do a halibut or a salmon or something like that, but over there, as warm as the waters are, they taste very muddy and fishy, you know. We'd fish with grenades, you know, call them DuPont lures.
I love it. Did you ever stay in any of the villages or always out?
I never spent a night in the village. That was kind of taboo.
I would think.
Over there. When we were out, the only time I stayed out of the camps when we were out of operations.
Did you ever come face to face with an NVA or Viet Cong?
Once.
Can you tell that story?
He shot one of my Montagnards beside me there, and it was my last operation in Vietnam. I had some other encounters. I just didn't see them face to face. They're pretty good at camouflage, you know. Saw muzzle flashes, but we had flown in on a helicopter insertion on Chinooks, which was, I only did that twice over there that I can recall. And I was sitting back towards the rear of the aircraft, and that gearbox back there is very, very loud. I mean, a loud whine. And when we got off the aircraft, I went out. The first thing you want to do is make contact with your home camp and let them know where you're at, what's going on. And I set my car 15 down, and I had the radio, and I was standing up talking, trying to get commo with the home camp there. And I'm looking over there, and an NVA came walking up and shot one of the yards beside me and took off running.
Did he kill him?
No, he didn't, thank goodness. And I know what he was trying to do. He was trying to lure us in. We were very close to the border at that time. And my yards, they were out on their security. They were out scratching their ass or something. They should have seen him coming in, you know, when they got him. That was the only one that I saw like that. Now, I saw a lot of dead ones.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what are they, 16, 17 years old, all ages?
some of our strikers were smaller than that. Some of them were barely taller than their M16.
Wow. What was the mission, the purpose for the Montagnard with you? Did they want to defeat them, or why were they?
They wanted to defeat both the North and the South. They did not.
So they just want to be left alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, they were basically Aborigine type people out there. They were hunters and gatherers, slash burn, you know, plant their crops. After a while, move on to another area and do the same like that. And they just wanted to be left alone. And it's my understanding since we left over there that it hasn't been very good for them, you know.
Are you talking maybe re-education camps, maybe stuff like that?
Worse.
Worse.
Yeah.
That's tough. Were there I've heard about them. Were there a lot of them?
Of Montagnards?
Mm-hmm.
There are, and I cannot tell you how many different ethnic tribes there were. Where we were at, we had what they called the Jirai and Rade. They were kind of unique to the province that we were in, Darlak province there. And there were Coho and God, I can't remember all the different names of it, but there's a lot of different ethnicity tribes of them.
You probably still think about them today.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonder what happened to all these people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know that some of them got to America?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
No, I don't know that any of ours did particularly, but I know a lot of yards did. They settled around Fort Bragg. A lot of the SF guys
Of course.
sponsored them and got them out there, and they've done pretty well.
Yeah.
I believe there was some in Montana, but I might be having that mixed up with the Hmong out of Laos.
I mean, talk about from there to Montana.
Cultural change.
Talk about cultural change. But so you were out a lot.
Yeah.
And but mostly by foot, very seldom by helicopter.
Right. Mostly by foot.
Because if you got in by helicopter, that would kind of give you away, I assume.
It does, yeah. It's hard to
obviously.
sneak up in a helicopter.
Did you go over the border a lot? Yes, of course.
Not a lot.
Okay. Did you stay with just that one region, or were you moving around quite a bit?
No, I was sent, because I previously told you our camp was a pretty quiet camp, because we maintained the offense a lot. My COs were good about that. They were active on getting out. It's better to have an offense than be on defense. You know, let's find them before they come to us, you know. So we were pretty much left alone there. I was sent, there's a camp called Duc Lap down south, and it had been hit really hard in Tet of 68. I believe it was Tet of 68. And big battle down there. Well, then 69 came around in November or December of 69. They were getting hit again, but it wasn't as severe as the previous year. But I was tasked to take a company of Montagnards down to provide security.
How many would that be?
Oh, probably took 100 down. And I got down there and met the CO and some of the NCOs there. And they assigned us positions within the camp. The camp was on 2 hills. On the siege of 68, I believe the North Hill used to be taller, but the bombing made it shorter, or vice versa. But anyway, we got acquainted with the camp, if you will, and then we were sent out on local security out there, around there. And I think about the second night out, we could hear the bad guys, but we couldn't see them out there. And I get a call on the radio and it says, listen, you guys, the 66 NVA Regiment is right around there somewhere. And the 66 was always in our area of operations up and down there. So he said, you know, it really heads up. Well, that next day, all hell breaks loose very close to us. And it's really, really thick jungle down there. And I think I had another American out with me on that. But I had a Vietnamese special forces with me there. And I said, we got to get over there and help these guys. It was a lieutenant out of that camp over there that was in the fight. And he said, the LLDB, that's the Vietnamese Special Forces, he said, no, not going to go.
Because?
He didn't want to. And
so you were stuck?
I was. I just told him, he was a sergeant also. Trung Si is her name. I got my interpreter over there and I said, Trung Si, you tell him if that lieutenant gets hurt, I'm going to kill him. And he turned white and got the message. Well, fortunately, it was a short firefight they got in over there, and they came out of that okay. But me and that LLDB didn't get along too well.
No, absolutely not.
I got pretty good throwing a knife, and I was so mad at him. I pulled my knife out. It's actually a bayonet that had modified into a knife, and hung a little wrapper up on a tree over there. And he was watching me. And I took that thing, and there was a little...
This could be his last day.
A little black ink spot right in the center of that thing. And I threw that knife, I hit that thing dead center on that. I looked over at him.
That could be between the eyes.
I think he got the message.
Yeah, indeed. But thank God it was a short battle.
But while we were out there, they started shooting artillery around us. Our guys started shooting artillery around us. And kind of at night, that was getting scary. We were having chunks of shrapnel fall in on our night location there. But we had an Air Force FAC flying around up there, and he couldn't see us, you know. But I carried a strobe light, and we had a 60 millimeter mortar with us, and I dropped it down the tube so, you know, I could point it, be directional at it. And he finally picked up our flash and had us there, and he said, okay, I got you guys if anything starts coming in.
Between the two of you, the FAC and you guys, amazing operation. Did you believe that we were going to win this war?
I believe we could have.
That's right. And because I'm going to put you on the spot, why didn't we?
Politics.
Yep.
Our spineless boys and girls back in D.C.
And I'm going to ask you, why were they spineless?
Because they wanted to stay in office, and you know, the thrust of our popular youth back at that point was get out. You know, they're baby killers and murderers and all this stuff. One thing, the American people, we've lost our will to win. Even today, it makes me sick. We could have won that war quickly over there. But always got a hand tied behind our back, you know. Couldn't go across the border rifles
Right.
legally.
Absolutely.
And
You're right.
but yet they could hide over there and rain their artillery in on us. I can remember one night there at Duc Lap, there was a mountain that you could see over in Cambodia there. We sat right there watching the truck lights going down and couldn't touch them.
But what did that do for your morale?
Well, sure didn't escalate it. I can tell you that. You know, we just shake our heads saying, what are they? They're probably rolling in artillery rounds, you know, to rain in on us on that.
And senseless killing of our men.
Yeah, in fact, on that particular mountain over there, one of my classmates out of Fort Bragg, he's still MIA on that mountain over there. He was running SOG, if you ever heard of that.
I sure have.
Yeah, he was a SOGie out of B52 there, and they lost 2 or 3 of their team over there. They've never been recovered.
They are still there somewhere.
Yeah, I had 3 friends in SOG that all went MIA. They recovered one about 7 years ago. He was a roommate of mine.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
They
yeah.
brought him home?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they had a funeral.
They did back in North Carolina. That's where he was from.
Yeah.
Really a young kid. I mean, I still remember him vividly.
We've interviewed a SOG.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So you just, did you have any communication back home at all, or were you out a lot?
Just letters.
You did get them kind of regularly?
Yeah. My mother, she subscribed to the Tri-City Herald here for me. Back at that time, it was a newspaper.
Right.
So I kind of was able to keep up on my high school sports and stuff, you know.
And I'm going to ask you this. Did you write really what was going on, or just nice letters?
Pretty much nice letters.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Did you ever get back and forth to Nha Trang much?
No. I got over there. I think, you know what? I think I only got there in processing and out processing.
That was it.
I think so. I went to, my promotion board was at Pleiku when I'm 86. No, I don't think I ever got back to Nha Trang.
Okay. Did you ever fight alongside ROK's Republic of Koreans?
No.
Yeah. Did you see their base camp at Nha Trang?
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
But I heard nothing but good about them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So how did you stay halfway clean?
You didn't. Well, actually,
I mean, the fatigues and everything.
well, actually, we hired Montagnards to wash them. A house girl, if you will. We had a team house, that's what they called there, and we had a young gal actually it was a guy that washed our clothes and polished our boots.
Polish your boots?
Yeah, occasionally.
Really?
Occasionally.
For what?
Well, when the donut dollies came in, I saw that picture not too long ago. And geez, I had on a nice looking set of fatigues. My boots were shined.
Did you know they were coming?
No, I did not. I knew we were told a Santa Boo was coming, but I had no idea what it was. You know, and what was cool about that, when they came in, rolled that bar off there, you know, and started saying, "What do you have, Sarge?" You know. But
were there 2 of them?
I think there were maybe 3.
Oh, okay.
Or so.
Typically 2, but go ahead.
Yeah, and what was really neat was they had little Dixie cups for the Montagnard kids and little rubber toys that, you know, that they gave. All the kids went insane. They thought that was.
By the way, what? I'd love to know how long did they stay, and did they just chat with you? We're talking about the Red Cross donut dollies.
They were probably there an hour or 2 at the longest, because they had other camps they had to get to, you know.
Exactly.
And weather's always a factor.
What did you think about that?
I thought that was all right, you know. It was nice to talk to
Round Eye?
Yeah, I wasn't going to say it, but thank you.
It's okay. Did you ever see him again?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I didn't get off the camp that much. I really didn't. I got into B52. I told you I was sent down to a camp called Duc Lap down there, and one night while we were down there, I'd been down there long enough that I was filthy and stunk like a goat. And that lieutenant that was out in that firefight right next to me out there, he was about the same shape as me, as stinking like a goat. Martha Ray flew into the camp, the meanest mother. And, you know, she was just a Special Forces legend in her.
Oh, tell me about her. Did you get to visit with her?
Yeah, just for a short time, because she said, Sarge, you stink. She says, now while you're in the LT, you can get my helicopter, you fly back to band me to it. You get a shower and a steak and whatever else.
Did she?
And come back tomorrow morning. So we said, okay. So we did. That night, while we were gone, the NVA dropped 10 rounds of mortar fire in on us. And there was a mortar pit that I was assigned to over there while I was there. And this captain and a sergeant, a medic sergeant, and an ASA guy, they were, I don't know if you know what they were Army Security Agency, radio listening.
Okay,
listening.
I'm not remembering.
Radio spooks. And they jumped in that mortar pit. And while they were in there, a round came in and hit the captain right on top of the head, killed all three of them. And the tragedy about that captain being killed, he was supposed to have de-roast a week or two before that. He had got a Dear John letter and refused to go home.
Terrible story.
Nice guy.
Terrible story.
Nice guy. So
terrible story. Boy.
anyway, Maggie was there. Then she went up to my camp, worked her way up to my camp. I wasn't there when she came in there. I was still down at Duc Lap. I was down there, I think, 3 weeks, or maybe close to a month. That operation I was out on, I was telling you, where I had to, strobe the FAC. The next morning, we were in a location set up doing something. I don't remember what, but all of a sudden the ground started shaking, and it was all I could do to stand up. And B52 Strike went in 6 clicks away. I could not believe how the ground shook. We got tasked to go do a BDA on that.
What is that?
A bomb damage assessment. You couldn't even walk through that stuff. I mean, it blew trees out by the roots, this big around up into others and stuff. The only other thing I've ever even seen close to that was Mount St. Helens when it popped.
Really?
I flew on
really? Did they do their target then?
Oh yeah, they got their target. Yeah. I think most of them were underground.
Yeah.
You know, and there's no way we're going to dig them out of that.
Yeah. How did they know about that? Who was
about where they were?
On that?
Well, the SOG guys gathered a lot of intelligence. Unfortunately, they had a mole in their headquarters. A lot of the B-52 strikes hit nothing, you know, because they were warned ahead of time. But now and again, they hit pay dirt out there.
Would you see them on a regular basis going overhead?
No, I didn't. In fact, I can only remember one other time. We didn't see them then. I can remember one time being up at my camp, just right at sunset, and the sun caught them just right up there where they were shiny. The airplanes were shiny. I looked up, me and another guy said, God, look at that. And they were over Cambodia. Yeah, so. Okay,
so did you ever come in contact with down pilots, rescue, none of that? Yeah, okay, because I was just wondering.
No, we had one interesting thing that happened. One of our patrols out, Montagnards, it was just Montagnards only when they were out. They got ambushed in their night position. And they claimed a Montagnard female was leading the NVA. And they said that one of the Montagnards played dead. And he said the Montagnard lady, started giving the NVA hell because she called them cowards and babies and other words. And she said they took off her panties and threw them at him and said, you guys need to be wearing these. And we called BS on that. Well, they got the radio, the NVA did, and we actually heard them talking on the radio later, you know, on a freak on that. But anyway, we sent out a recovery to find the yards out there. We found a pair of panties out there.
True story. Oh gosh, there's nothing. Well, so you're coming toward the end of your war experience, toward the end of the month. Did you have any kind of like a short timers period before you were going to be coming home?
I think that operation I went out where the NVA came in and shot my yard beside me, I think I was down to about 3 weeks.
Did you wear a helmet? You didn't even wear a helmet.
No, I wear tigers and a little tiger hat that we had cut down with just a short bill on it.
How did you protect yourself?
My head's hard enough to ricochet around.
Glad I asked that question. So, goodness gracious. Were you ever shot at?
Yeah. The first time I was shot at was right after I got to my camp. And they sent a helicopter out. They called it a sniffer mission. It had a detector on the front of it that could pick up the ammonia from urine. So if they found out an NVA camp or something out there, this machine would detect the ammonia in the urine and give a hot spot. Well, they asked, you want to go out with us on this, Sergeant? And we flew over towards Cambodia on that infiltration routes. I said, sure, I'll go. He said, bring a lot of ammo. I said, okay. So I got in there and I sat on the edge of the door of the helicopter, with my feet dangling out just like this. We were flying along and the operator says, got a hot spot down there, hose it down. So I started doing some shooting. And I saw a hooch down there, but it didn't appear to be occupied to me. I started shooting and shooting. Every time they'd say, we got a hot spot, I'd shoot. Every now and then I kept hearing this pop, 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 thunk. I said, God, what is that? So we got back to the camp there, and that was the bullet holes in the tail boom where they had shot at us, on that. The popping was the rounds going by, on that. So. And a close one I had was down at Duc Lap down there. My team sergeant came down there who I just thought the world of. He was an old ex-SOG guy and just a cool guy. And he and I were standing there talking, scratching our asses and, seeing what's going on. And all of a sudden we hear kaboom, kaboom, just like that. And it was a recoilless rifle and the round hit very close to us. It hit the dispensary. We were standing over by it. It just darn near blew it apart, but it set it on fire. We got sprayed a little bit with, some gravel or whatever on that. And his name was Smith, and called him Smitty. He said, I think we better take some cover up.
Cool, dude.
So I'm trying to remember if we saw the muzzle flash where that came from or not, but I know I went over and got on a 50 caliber machine gun and did some hosing up there. And then we sent out a patrol later, and we found some graves up there. So I don't know if I got lucky on that.
Old new graves.
Yeah.
New graves. Did you ever get injured the whole time?
Not significantly.
My gosh, you're like a Teflon man. Was it really having a lot to do with the skill of being special forces?
Unluck. Yeah.
No explanation.
Yeah. Some guys aren't so lucky. They got killed their first day over there or their last day. And
I can guess that you still think about all that today.
I do think about it a lot. Yeah, I find that particularly as I age, the mortality sets in and you start reviewing a lot of that stuff.
I bet you do. Yeah. By the way, to jump forward a little bit, have you talked about this through the years, or just
yeah,
shut it down?
No, I've talked about some. In my second career, I worked for the VA as a voc rehab counselor, and I had to talk to a lot of vets about their similar experiences.
And very therapeutic. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you're getting down to the wire. Then you said 3 weeks out. Then did they just rope you in and say it's time to go home?
No, I didn't do that. I still had work to do. Like I said, we were short-handed around there, but they recognize they don't want to send you out when you're so short. Like that. I actually got another weapons guy in, got a little bit of overlap with him, and during that last 3 weeks, I went on my R&R. I mean, I got right down to the wire, either going out. So I went down to Sydney, spent my week down there, came back to get on the plane. He said, it's full, you're gonna have to stay another night. Damn. So.
Well, going to Sydney, could you just pinch yourself like?
Oh, that was amazing.
Two different worlds.
Absolutely amazing.
I bet they loved you down there. He's turning red.
I went back last year, my wife and I did, to Sydney, and went up into the King's Cross area. I don't know if you've ever been to.
I have,
And it hasn't changed much.
Yeah,
She asked me, well, what was this like down here? It was interesting.
They love the Americans.
Yeah, they did. I like the Australians overall.
Absolutely.
Fine people.
You bet. Well, you get back just in time to get on the plane then.
Pretty
and
much.
Tell about getting out of there.
Pretty much. I was going to tell you about my first experience, my first operation out with my commander there. We were out, and we didn't make any contact. We saw some sign, but didn't. But we were, I think, the first or the second day out, and we decided to take a break, and there was a tree falling down. And I sat down on the tree, and I had the map out. I was sitting with my elbows on my knees like that, looking at the map. And my commander said, "Don't move." And I thought, oh, booby trap, you know. And he took out his knife, and he reached down between my legs and went, a bamboo viper. That was right down.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
I would have had a heart attack. Alive.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Did you run across these snakes every once in a while?
Yeah, I did. I only recall seeing one cobra when we were over there, and we were coming in off an operation, and I had my security on either side, and we came to an open spot, so the security was out in the brush, the woods, if you will, and we went through that open spot. There was one tree, like the apple tree in the Bible, up there. We got up there, and I heard the yard start chattering and pointing up, and I looked up there, and there's this, they called snakes law. Law, Trung say law. And I looked up there, and I said, what kind is that? And he said, the head, goes like that, And I said, and they went around and left it alone. And I said, well, we'll leave that alone, too.
Because there were killer snakes over there.
Oh, yeah.
How did you sleep at night?
With one eye open. You know what was worse, didn't bother me, the snakes, was the mosquitoes, particularly in the wet season, the rainy season, where, God almighty, those things could bite you right through your hammock. And you could hear them coming, too, And I had that poncho liner sold onto my hammock there. I could pull it over me, but I'd get so hot in there I couldn't stand it, coming out.
Absolutely. And did you get a lot of red clay on you?
I did down at Duc Lap, down there, and Duc Lap, there was a lot of laterite. I think they called a lot of that stuff down there. That's when Martha Ray said you stink like a goat. Thought I had a great tan till I showered, But,
yeah, she was a legend.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got to meet her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so. Gosh, did the year go by really quickly for you?
Pretty much. In hindsight, it did. I wanted to tell you about one other thing. I were out.
Sure.
I was out with the yards, and there must have been another American with me on this one too, but I don't remember it. But we were in fairly heavy jungle then, but there was a little hole that you could happen to see the moon on, and it's when the astronauts landed on the moon. And I'm a space nut, and the guys back at the camp knew, and they called me on the radio and said, hey, the guys are on the moon. Now, you got to imagine this. It's darker than 4 foot up an elephant's ass, and we're sitting there in this Montagnard. I'm trying to explain to him, point to the moon, and saying there's 2 Americans up there right now. He's looking at me like...
Yeah, did he get it?
I don't know.
Did you get it?
I got it, but the way he was looking at me, he said, okay, Sarge, okay, whatever you say.
July 69.
Yeah, July 69.
Wow, hard to, boy, surreal. You're in a jungle, they're on the moon.
Trying to explain, we got men on the moon.
That is just a surreal story.
Yeah.
Really, God bless Americans. But is there any other part of Vietnam that you want to share?
I'm going to be honest with you. Most of my experiences were good over there. When it came time to go home, I really didn't want to. But,
really?
But we knew they were going to pull Special Forces out of Vietnam. And within a month of my leaving, we invaded Laos. And my...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Lamson operation. We lost a lot of helicopters and stuff on that. And the guys Lamson, Lamson was the name of the operation.
Okay.
Our guys, that was in May of '70.
Okay.
And the guys out of my camp, they went on that operation into Cambodia over there.
To do what now?
To get the bad guys. They're in the sanctuaries over there.
Gotcha.
Over there. And I was really feeling bad that I missed that on that. But
was it successful?
Yeah, they did a lot.
Did they?
Captured a lot of supplies and ammunition and rice and killed a lot of it.
I don't think Americans ever knew that, did we?
Probably didn't want to admit it. You know, we wasn't couth to have a successful operation over there.
Exactly. No.
But yeah, I'll never forget. Excuse me. I went down to Cam Ranh Bay after I processed out of the camp. I had to go up through Pleiku and then over to Nha Trang, Bambi to it, Pleiku and back to Nha Trang, turn in my weapon and get my flight home stuff, and then sitting down to Cam Ranh Bay to catch the plane. I was down there about a week waiting for the plane, and I'll never forget getting on the plane, coming home when the thing lifted off. All the guys were cheering and stuff, and I wasn't. I just thought, you know.
Was it bittersweet?
It was, because, you know, you got to remember right at that time what the students were up to here in the States in May of '70. It was rude.
Yeah.
And
more than rude.
I flew back into McChord over here, and I was in Vietnam one day and back home in Benton City in about 24 hours.
Surreal.
And when I'd heard nothing good about what was going on over here. And when I out-processed at Fort Lewis, it was just go, go, go. I mean, one thing to another to get it done. I took a cab up to Boeing Field. That was the only, I think, Hughes Air West served Pasco at that time. I had to fly out of Boeing Field. I walked in the lounge up there. I thought I might as well belt one down while I'm waiting. There was one woman in there. She was probably in her 40s, a very nice looking lady. And I walked in there and she stood up. She started coming at me, and I thought, here it comes. She said, "Excuse me, did you just come home from Vietnam?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Can I buy you a drink?"
All right.
And I said,
all right.
Yeah.
That's
wow.
the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have hit on her. She said, "Look her."
Tiger lady. Cougar.
Yeah.
Cougar. That's a good story. So you got back to your home, and what was the homecoming like? I mean, with your family and all?
It was nice. They weren't real inquisitive. They gave me some space.
Yeah.
You know.
Did you just do a lot of sleeping and resting?
I did for about 2 days, trying to, the jet lag and time got caught up. But I wanted to try to get back into society. Growing up over there, I had a lot of friends over there. And when I came home, most of them were away or gone. There's still a few around, but so I supported the local water hole pretty well, you know.
And then you did go on then as far as military.
Yeah.
Do you want to just go ahead and tell us about that?
Yeah, well, the friend that I went over to Vietnam with, he came home about 2 weeks after me, and he stopped out here and spent about a month with us on that.
Nice.
He and I talked about going down and re-enlisting and see if we could go back to Nam. Well, like I said, the Special Forces was cutting back at that time, so we couldn't go back that. And I said, I'm not going to go back to Fort Bragg and pick up pine cones. I don't want to do that, you know. So.
And it was kind of winding down. You know.
Yeah, so he and I supported the water hole for a while, and then I applied to Eastern and got accepted, and he did too.
Great. Buddies.
Yeah, he came back from Pennsylvania, and we went to school together, and both of us decided to go back in and went through ROTC up there. I wanted to fly, and I got into the ROTC flight program, got my private pilot's license out of that.
And then you flew in the
Army.
Army.
Yeah, I flew both helicopters and fixed.
Very good.
And then several assignments around after flight school, and then I transferred over to military intelligence and worked that for a while. And in the reserves, I had a really good job in the reserves working MI and as a pilot. And then also my last 5 years in the reserve, I worked for DIA,
Oh, okay.
I was in the Defense Human Service.
Yeah, excellent.
So
Excellent. Somewhere along the line, you met someone.
I did. I just about made it through college. My last 6 months, she nailed me. She's a Richland girl, and a blind phone call, a cold call, if you will. She said yes. I said, would you like to go out and have a drink? My brother knew her out at Hanford. She was going to school up there. So we happened to hit it off, and so that's...
How many years?
46 now.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. What's her name?
Sharon.
And kids? 2. And their names?
Dana and Misty.
And are they in the area?
Dana lives 2 blocks from us,
right.
and he's in the National Guard. He served a tour in Afghanistan. He's a major in the National Guard.
Good for him.
And he's a federal agent for Department of Energy out here. When he got out of the Army, he became a Secret Service agent. And his wife said he was doing too much traveling, so she made him quit. And he got on with the VA as a special agent. Worked for them for a
Sharp guy.
Yeah, he's a pretty sharp
Very
kid.
sharp guy.
He worked for the VA as a special agent for 11 years, and then this opening came up over here in Hanford. He transferred over to DOE as the Inspector General's office. He likes his job really well.
Excellent.
A lot of stuff going on out here.
Yeah, I can imagine. Excellent. Well, do you go to any reunions at all?
I've gone to several of the Special Forces conventions.
I can't imagine those stories.
When I got out of active Army, I started flying for Verizon Airlines. And I ran into a guy over at Yakima one day that worked for me in the Army. He was a pilot. And he was flying for Smith Barney, the stockbrokers.
My gosh.
And he said, hey, Steve, how would you like to fly for these? And we were starving working for Verizon. Lived down in Vancouver. I said, yeah. So I left Horizon and flew for Smith Barney for 6 years out of Boeing Field. We flew into Kennewick a lot. And then they took the airplane away from us. So I ended up going to work for the VA. It's really a strange path, I ended up going to work for, and they put me through to get my master's, and so I worked as a voc rehab counselor for
Excellent.
10 years.
You've had quite a variety of experiences.
I have. After I retired from the VA, a friend of mine started a nonprofit organization helping special operations with their VA disability claims, the SEALs and Green Berets. And they asked me to join that, and I did. I ended up becoming the president of it.
Excellent.
Did that for 10 years until we moved from Lacey over to Richland in September 2018. At that time, I'd done that for 10 years, and I said, it's time to hang up the spurs on that, but I still go down to Coronado twice a year and work with the SEALs, helping them out. And I'm helping locally here. I'm a service officer for my American Legion, and I think I'm going to get involved in Vets Court, helping them out too.
Excellent. What a resume. You have served your country amazingly well.
Well, thank you.
Amazing. Wow. You're really a patriot. Amazing. Well, I have to ask you how your service and experience has affected your life. Where do you begin?
Well, obviously, I wouldn't have had the flying job if I hadn't. I love flying. I like flying the helicopters. That was fun. How has it affected my life? I did what I wanted to do. For the most part, I enjoyed it. I had some assignments that I'm not real happy with, like anybody will, a boss or two. But by and I made a lot of friends, and still in touch with quite a few on that. And I don't know. I think I learned a lot about myself in it. And I'm
early on.
Yeah, I hope I pass some of that on to my kids.
It sounds like you have.
Yeah.
Goodness, I'm sure they're very, very, very proud of you. Do you share your experiences with them?
When they ask.
Yeah.
I support Eastern's ROTC department. I give donations every year to them,
Excellent.
and they started a Veterans Resource Center up there, and I usually make a donation to each of those a
Excellent.
couple times a year.
Excellent investment.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You've been there. You know all about
Yeah.
it. So is there anything that you would like to add that we didn't cover? I mean, we could go on for another hour, but anything else you'd like to add?
Oh, golly. I would recommend the service to anybody. If I had to do it all over again today, I'd try to go to Spacecom. Spacecom, the new service they just started.
Space. Oh, yeah.
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 And before that, because of the flying, I always thought the Coast Guard would be good. And the reason I thought the Coast Guard would be good is they're either out busting dirt bags or saving them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they got a real world mission every day
Mhm.
out there. I think I would have liked that too
Interesting.
on
Yeah.
that. So,
Interesting.
but you know, looking back, I wouldn't change
Yeah.
anything. It's been pretty good to me.
I-
Country's been good to me. That's why I like to give a little back.
Well, you certainly have paid back, and you haven't been sitting on your thumbs.
No,
You have not had a dual life.
been interesting.
It certainly has been. Well, we thank you. We thank you so much for sharing your story.
Well, instead of thanking me, vote for a politician that takes care of vets. Okay, that'd be enough. Thank you.
We